Our first speaker today is Colum Twomey, and he is going to talk about the ambassadors of women's voices in the workplace. Colum established Zendesk's European headquarters in Ireland and oversees all operations. His primary focus is on engineering, building and leading a world-class team of well over 150 plus software developers across Europe, building software to meet customer service needs and setting up teams for success, and then keeping businesses in sync. So Colum is the Senior Vice President of Software Engineering at Zendesk, and I'm going to now welcome him to the stage.
Hi, Sapphire. Thank you.
Thank you, Colum.
So, hi, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. This combobulating looking at myself on the screen here, which is distracting. I'm going to hide that. So, yeah, it's great to be here. Welcome to all the attendees. Delighted to be here. I'm honored to be here. Great to see this event happening, brought to you by WWCode. Great organization. And we do have some amazing speakers today. Some of our top engineers at Zendesk covering some really interesting topics around career paths and data reliability, cultural backgrounds, diversity. Some really good stuff there. The first presentation after mine is from Guiomar and Margaret on, as I recall, it was changing careers in tech. And just from my knowledge of Margaret in particular, and the story I heard recently from her on her career progression, I think it's pretty impressive and amazing what people can do when they kind of look at the career and decide to make changes. And in my experience, women are a lot more brave than men in this respect. I've never seen such bold career decisions as I've seen with women, especially here at Zendesk over the last few years. We also have Olga talking about cultural backgrounds and Sarah talking about reliability and managing huge data sets, Ava on career progression, and Katarzyna on onboarding and mentoring. Some good stories come there. But thanks very much to all the organizers and presenters. A lot of effort has gone into this presentation, and it's much appreciated. Let me tell you a little bit about Zendesk. Just to give you some background, we were founded in 2007 in Copenhagen. That's 14 years ago now. So it's kind of unusual for a company to set up in Copenhagen. So I think our Danish roots are very prevalent and quite different to Irish and US companies. In my experience, I've been here at Zendesk for 9 years now, and I've seen a huge amount of growth in that time. We were tiny. We had no employees in Ireland when I started. We've well over 500 now. We've over 5,000 employees worldwide at this stage. And so that's been tremendous growth over the last few years. And about a third of those employees are in product development, which is kind of a vast number of people. Interestingly, that group of people are very extremely distributed around the world. I think this company is the first I've worked with where we've seen such a wide variety of locations. In Europe alone, we have engineering offices in Dublin here, where I'm based, in Copenhagen, in Krakow, Montpellier, and more recently now in Lisbon as well. And I guess since lockdown as well, we have a lot of remote employees all over Europe as well. So that's pretty exciting to see. And we do a lot of different work here in Europe. We develop a lot of products. Some of them are like our Talk product, that's our voice product. Our Guide products developed primarily out of Copenhagen, which are our knowledge-based software. We have our Cell product as a CRM product coming primarily out of Krakow. Mobile apps and SDKs are developed here in Dublin, primarily also some in Krakow. So it's quite distributed. We have an Explore team here in Dublin and Montpellier. That's our analytics product. And then we have a whole bunch of other teams supporting other activities. We have a database management teams. We have our edge services. We have machine learning now as well. So a lot going on. And in each geography as well, we have the whole product life cycle based locally. So there are amazing a number of opportunities in engineering, in product management, in program management, design, architecture, QA, analytics, machine learning in many different areas. So tons and tons of opportunities. Now, as I said a moment ago, we are originally a Danish company, and that brought to Zendesk, I think, a very unique culture starting off, at least from my perspective. And it's been, from my perspective, I found it really, really attractive from day one. So people ask me about the culture a lot, and I kind of boil it down to 3 words. First of all is inclusion. I think we're very good at making people feel welcome and included in everything that happens within Zendesk. Second is respect, which I guess is kind of related to that. We're a very respectful organization, respectful of each other, respectful of different opinions and perspectives. And I think that's was very unusual, at least when I started here. It might be becoming a little bit more prevalent now. Hopefully it is. And the third bit then is authenticity. So we encourage people to be their authentic self, to bring their authentic self to work and not to pretend to be something other than what they are. And, I think if you can be yourself at work, that makes work much less stressful, much more pleasurable. I kind of feel Zendesk is like a family in terms of how we work together. And I think that's great. It's a safe place for people to work together and be their authentic selves. Diversity is really important here as well. So, I run a pretty large engineering organization, and I've been working in tech for many, many years at this point. And if I look back on my career, as I've been doing here in preparation for this chat, I look at the kind of the discipline of computer science. And when I was in college a number of years ago, the numbers were very evenly balanced between males and females. And by Irish standards at the time, it was also pretty balanced by other underrepresented groups as well. So I thought that was pretty healthy coming into my career. But over the first decade of my 15 years, even of my work career, I've seen a definite and regrettable shift towards less diversity in the workplace. A lot fewer women, a lot more men coming from more uniform backgrounds, less diverse candidates coming into the system. And, that has led, it wasn't conscious in any way, but it has certainly led to a pretty unhealthy situation. And looking back, I think, that not hiring with the idea of representative diversity, if I can call it that, it has unfortunate, unforeseen, and unintended consequences. And, it's no longer desirable. It's never been desirable just to hire like the best man for the job, which might have been, people thoughtlessly did that and weren't really thinking it through. And I think happily, over the last decade or so, I've seen a significant shift, especially since I joined Zendesk, and we have a much more higher level of emphasis on the importance of diversity and the value of diversity. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. We have a long way to go. But we're very mindful, I think, and we really have this kind of front and center in our day-to-day in terms of making sure that we do better. And, part of my role is to be an ambassador for women in engineering and for diversity in general within the organization. And that's a role. It's not an easy role, but it's a role I'm pleased to take on, and pleased to be an executive sponsor, for example, for our Women in Engineering employee group here for EMEA. And I was thinking about kind of some tips I might bring for people in general, and men maybe in particular, in trying to be better ambassadors and advocates for women in engineering. And for diversity in particular. And somebody brought to my notice the NCWIT, that's the National Center for Women in Information Technology in the US, who have some great advice on this subject. And they kind of give some good tips that I'm going to quickly run through, but a lot of these really resonated with me. It's things I do constantly try and do. So first one is listen and talk, and primarily listen. So, it's important that we listen to women's stories and validate their experiences, and that women know that you're interested in their stories. Listening is hard sometimes, and men have a tendency, in my experience, to rush to try and provide a solution without listening thoroughly and making sure they understand the situation. So it's about listening, not solving in the first instance. And I think it's also important that men talk to other men, about women in engineering diversity and raise awareness. And share the stories they've heard and ensure that they are equipped to intervene appropriately at the appropriate times in their day-to-day. Recruitment is probably the next subject I'd like to talk about. I know it's very important to us that we focus on recruiting for our more diverse staff. And it's hard, but it really needs to be very intentional. I have found, we started off in a fairly poor place maybe a few years ago, and we've really been acting proactively to try and improve our stats, I guess. And it's really important that you're very thoughtful about it. We are we put a lot of effort into hiring for diversity, And an easy way to start for those who are kind of starting out in this is really at the more junior levels in an organization. It's easier, I have found, like for university internship and our kind of entry-level engineers, to hire much more diverse talent. In order to hire more senior folks, it's much more difficult. You have to nurture them yourself, or you have to try really, really hard to get in the people in the door that you want, to ensure you have decent diversity in numbers and the impact of that. So like increasing the number and visibility of female leaders in organizations is very important. It's really, really wonderful the effect diverse leadership can have on a group or team. And I'm thinking in particular right now of a hire we made very recently that I've seen immediately impact going into a group that was where diversity was totally incorrect, and helped bring a different perspective and make people think, get out of that kind of old thinking they would have had into a new way of thinking. It's really refreshing to see that happening. So it's important that we provide opportunities, both technical and managerial, and training for people to make sure that they have those opportunities. Mentorship, I think, and sponsorship as well is another important area to look at. So we have very specific programs at Zendesk for this, for women in engineering, particularly women in more senior leadership roles. Female role models are actually, it's really important from a mentorship perspective. But women and men benefit also from strong male mentors too. So we need to make sure that we have a good balance there. Next up is micro inequalities. So watching out for those and correcting those in instances of unconscious bias that you come across day to day. And if you're tuned in as you become over time into watching out for these, you see quite a few, and you need to be ready to react and provide appropriate feedback in the moment. So we provide compulsory training for all staff at Zendesk in this area. And we try and make sure that action is taken when it's seen, when bias is seen, and calling it out, and practicing micro allyship in the moment is really important. Next up is metrics. So establishing accountability metrics, including diversity, is very important too. So yourself is saying what gets measured gets done. So we have already at Zendesk established metrics for diversity in internships and interviewing and hiring and promotions and team membership. And, we do set our OKRs or annual goals for the company. And at top of our priorities at Zendesk is we have diversity goals, which operate at all levels in the organization. We share expectations with managers around behaviors and feedback and development plans and all these things, career mentoring, things that are important to ensure that we're doing the right thing here. Modeling behavior is important as well. So, we need not only to tolerate, but to encourage better work-life strategies for all our staff. I think COVID and working from home has helped a lot in some aspects here, and that people are, in the last couple of years, much more flexible at times, more flexible in where they work from, and that's to be encouraged. And at Zendesk, we give everybody within the engineering org the opportunity to decide where they want to work from home, in the office, or a hybrid is entirely up to them. But we need to ensure people get the opportunity to live their life as well as work, setting aside time for personal events, encouraging more flexible hours. And I think it's really, really important that senior people demonstrate that they are doing this themselves in their own career. So not pretending to be available when they're not. If they're off, setting those, flag in Slack or email notifications saying, I'm off, back Monday, whenever. So people don't, feel they need to be always available and present. They take leadership from the front and from the top, and it's really important that we all model that behavior. Discussing diversity in the workplace is also really important. If it's something that's not talked about, it's something that's kind of ignored. And I think it's really important that we raise at all levels diversity issues frequently in meetings, in news updates, and so forth. So people are comfortable discussing the issue and bringing up issues when they occur. So sometimes that's difficult for women because maybe it's perceived as self-acting in some ways and in their own self-interest. So men can help promote this and be more ensuring that this is happening at all levels. And also sharing your own diversity journey if you have one. Being vulnerable, letting people know what your background is and how you've learned and how you've evolved. I think it's really important too. And finally, from kind of the tips perspective is, ensuring men are more active and comfortable being involved in informal and formal women's groups. And I think that's a thing we're still struggling a little bit with at Zendesk. In my recent conversations, I'm hearing this. I think a lot of men are a little bit, I don't know if I'm really welcome. This is a women's organization, and it's just we're not open about it. I think we need to really spell it out. It should be in the group description. If men should be welcomed, and I believe they should be in most instances, and allowed and supported and encouraged to become allies and participate and volunteer and get involved. And men should also be signing up for the events like this and the Grace Hopper and whatever else is happening that we're involved with. We need to value those activities, and we need to kind of recognize the importance of those and recognize people getting involved. So that's kind of top level. I won't go on too much longer. I think I'm pretty close to time, but there's many other areas. I'm happy to talk about people at another time, but I think I'll just wrap up at that because I'm just looking where the clock is at this point. What I will say is, to wrap up, diversity is really important. It is useful. It is appropriate. It is everyone's responsibility, and we do it. We do it because it's good for our product. It's good for our company. It's good for our end user experience. But most of all, I think we do it because it is simply the right thing to do. So it takes conscious and takes definitive action by management to change things for the better, and by all of us, to be honest. And personally, I'm committed, and I believe Zendesk is committed in promoting women in engineering in particular and appropriate diversity at Zendesk. So I think I'm at time of that, so I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for listening. Sapphire.
Hi, Colum. Thank you so much for that talk. We have one question for you. Anna, if you want to show it up on the screen. So many of our members are at a moment of shifting and reevaluating their careers. So what advice would you give to someone who is currently looking for the right company for their next role?
Well, in one way, it's very much a seller's market at the moment. There's huge opportunities out there in the marketplace. The demand far outweighs supply at the moment. So the world's your oyster in many ways, which is great, for people trying to further their careers and move up. Personally, from my own perspective, I've had a number of jobs at different companies, and to me, the most important thing is to look for the fit in the organization, the fit for your own individual goals and desires and work style, and how the kind of company you want to work for, the kind of company you want to be present at every day is really important. I think that's probably the most important thing for me, just making sure it is the right fit, that it is, this is your life. You get one shot of this. You want to make sure that that you're in a place where you're treated well, where you're respected, and it's a good place to be. That by far outweighs anything else. Obviously, career progression is important. Obviously, developing your technical abilities and evolving those skills and learning things. That's probably the second thing. Make sure you're always learning. When you stop learning, it's time to retire, I think, at that point. Beyond that, I think everything else is, way down the list compared to those two things. So look out, see what's there. Talk to people in the organization, try and get a feel for what the culture is like, and just ensure that it is a match for your own way of working and how you want to progress. And don't be tempted by the shiny dollars or whatever that is. That's entirely secondary. So that's my advice.
Fantastic. Thank you, Colum, for that advice. And thank you for everyone that was asking questions in the chat. Eva, I think, Shauna just answered your question there. And Colum, thank you so much for everything. And everyone, I forgot to mention at the start, all of our talks will be recorded and published onto YouTube in the next few weeks. So you can always come back to this talk that Colum presented here. But that then brings us to the end of our first talk today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colum. Have a lovely day.